Hello and welcome. This is the Tiffany's Fitness Podcast, a podcast where I talk to coaches, athletes, and strength enthusiasts about strength coaching, life balance, and more. My name is Tiffany, and today's guest is Charles Abouzied. You might know him on Instagram as Team Wagon. He is awesome, and he has been doing so many really cool things on Instagram and TikTok with his streaks and days of like minimal effective dose. And we got to talk about that and so much more. So enjoy the episode and I'll check back in with you at the end. And I feel like we haven't talked in so long.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. I've been busy. I'm in my last semester of school right now, so just
Yeah.
trying to knock that out the park so that way I could just continue on with my life.
Yeah. And then what's the plan after school?
So the plan after that is just to look for a job. I'm gonna take probably about the first half of 2025 to just not do much, maybe get some substitute teaching jobs while I look for a position. It's not going to be hard, thank God, because there's a lot of teaching jobs. But I'm going to take at least a good 6 months off just because I've been in school for the past couple years. I've been so stressed. So I'm just going to take the stipend money they give me from this semester and do something with it. I don't know. And then
Yeah.
and then in the summer, I'm planning on taking a road trip to California because I got a job as a fitness coordinator for summer camp there in California.
Oh, cool.
So
Because I saw that your
yeah,
camp that you had been going to closed.
they did.
So
Yeah,
so I was like, and I know that's like your thing that you do all this every summer, and it looks like
yeah,
you're like having such a good time. So
yeah. It was such a fun time over there, and honestly, it was one of those places where I was just like, it helped me figure out where I wanted to go in my life. So it's what brought me to phys ed. And the fact that it closed down sucks. But as soon as it closed, the director from this camp in California reached out to me. He's like, "Oh, we heard great things about you. Want to talk more?" I'm like, "Oh, perfect.
yes,
Let's
perfect.
Yeah, that works because I worked in California before at another camp before they closed. So I'm like, "Ooh, I get to go back to pretty much the same place where I went to in 2019." So I'm
Sweet.
excited to go back to Santa Barbara and make some magic.
Awesome. How so I stayed Santa Barbara because I was like, there's lots of camps because I know I did a summer camp uh in Calvin Crest, which is like Central California. That was like the big one in my area. And
Okay,
that
was it a
was
sleepaway camp?
yeah. It was I don't know, there's Sugar Pine in Calvin Crest. And it's just like a little sleepaway camp thing. And then the church that I was associated with, like they helped run the camp as well.
Okay.
So I had gone there as a kid and then I got to help go back and like clean and run and all the things.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, it was a fun little place. I don't like really remember most much of it, but I remember it was fun. Like I remember being like, this is a cool place, and it was like you get to leave because there wasn't like a lot of sleepaway camps
Yeah.
in the mountains. Like that's just not like a thing because everyone just goes camping. Like that if you're sleeping away and you live in Yosemite,
Yeah.
you just all go to Yosemite.
Why go camping if that's what y'all do in your community already?
Yeah, that's already the thing. So there wasn't a lot of like camps, but I think it wasn't so much of it was more like doing reading and crafts, which yours seems like a lot more
Oh yeah, it
fun.
was a wellness camp. We had a lot of activities, and for me, since I ran the fitness side, it was super fun. And the good thing about this new camp, it's also a fitness based camp as well.
It's fun.
And because I'm taking a road trip, I'm planning on bringing my maces with me, so
Yeah.
that way, we could teach some steel mace flow, mace swings, and stuff
How
like
did
that.
you get into going into like camps? Like, how did you get that sort of a job? Because that looks like fun. It just looks like a fun time. It looks like you're having a great time.
It is. I actually got started in like 2007.
Wow.
I was I was in college and I was just like, and I saw MTV's True Life. I went to Fat Camp, and I was like, oh man, and I think this is when I just started my career as a fitness trainer. I think I was teaching spin classes at the time, and then I was just like, man, I really wish I could go somewhere where I could just focus on exercise and fitness and just train people. And then I found this place called Camp Shane,
Mhm.
and then I filled it out, and they were looking for a boot camp instructor, and I was like, hey, that's me, and that's how I got started. I
That's
did
cool.
really so that's how like I didn't realize how much I would love it until going there because I did really well as their boot camp instructor that they made me not just run the classes there, but they also had me with the adult side. So they opened up an adults only camp that summer as well. So that's where I got thrown into the thing. And honestly, if it wasn't for the camp atmosphere, I would not be nearly as good as I am as a coach in the group setting. Because it's like you deal with kids who don't want to be at camp, and you have to learn to find ways to make fitness engaging, and stuff like that. And that being at camp is what helped mold me into the trainer I am today, which has been super, in retrospect, pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, yeah, super rewarding. Like just like a really good way to learn. Oh my God, my dog. How to she's brought me a shred of cardboard that she's like, yes. But it seems like a really cool space to like really like get to like flesh out your skills with like the biggest group of people that you
Oh yeah.
probably will interact with people who and kids who are just like, I don't want to do this. And you get that sort of a little bit in like group fitness classes, but they like are usually adults who've signed up to be there at least. So the motivation factor is a little bit different versus like people who are like actively like, I don't want to do this.
Exactly. You know, when you have in the adult fitness industry, it's like people come in of their own volition and they're like wanna enjoy it and wanna learn. And a lot of these kids in the camps, even in schools, like they're forced to go. And
Mm-hmm.
I like, especially in a camp sitting, because it's a fat camp as they call it. Like there will be parents who trick their kids into going this camp. They're like, "Oh, we're going to a sleepaway." Like I remember there's this one story about how a mom was driving her kid to camp. It's like, oh, we're going to McDonald's. And the kid's like, okay. And then the kids, after like a couple hours, like, why are we going to a McDonald's in the mountains? And then before you know it, she dropped her off at the camp. It's like, oh, surprise, it's not a McDonald's. So just like the things that like these kids have to go through when they come into camp and be like, I want to hate all the things. It's tough enough as is, but like once you kind of find those ways to connect and make fitness fun and put fitness in a different light as to what you see a lot out there in the industry nowadays, and that's when they start to get a little bit of that buy-in.
Yeah, yeah, because I think especially if they're coming into it like as it being framed as like a fat camp, it makes it feel like it's a punishment. And then
Yeah,
you get to show them that it's not. It's actually like a thing that's fun and cool. And I think that's a lot of what I have to do when I like have new clients is be like, this isn't like a punishment for you. Like
yeah,
this is a thing we get to do. We get to strength train. We get to be strong. We get to invest this time in ourselves. And it's not something we have to do. And also
yeah.
like changing those phrases in our brain as we're doing it as well.
Exactly. It goes to show you, and as weird as it sounds, all the generational trauma that you receive from the fitness industry, uh, in health and wellness, it's always directed at um the language that they use, saying like, oh, like summer's just around the corner, and like if you're not drenched in the sweat, you're not going hard enough, like stuff like this, where people have this perceived image of fitness of like people like not boot camp, like drill sergeants
Mm-hmm.
yelling at you to yelling at you to the next pound lost or whatever the goal is.
Yeah, like a freaking Jillian Michaels
Yeah,
nonsense.
exactly. And it's a damn shame because fitness is so much more than that aspect that people just can't see that. Even if when people have when they enjoy their boot camp classes or whatever cases, what's the one thing they say? It's like, I enjoy being killed and tortured by my trainer.
Yeah.
But that's they're losing out on the like the real purpose of fitness is to help you live an even better quality of life than you have right now. And then when you kind of make that switch, you're like, I'm doing these things to help me feel good. And then when you have trainers who learn how to facilitate that joy and excitement for exercise, as opposed to telling them, oh, we're gonna train real hard right now because June's not that far away. You need to get summer ready. Then it's like that's when we start having better conversations in the fitness industry about having joy when working out as opposed to hating every second of it.
Yeah, yeah. And it is like a thing that you have to like unlearn as you're going in because like I mean, I know, like even like with all of the things with fitness, a lot of the times it is framed as a punishment. Like even as like I was like an athlete growing up, like that was a thing, but still like doing cardio was a punishment. It was like you did bad, now you have to run, or you have to run, and then they make it terrible, and they make it like specifically like a thing that is unfortunate and mean and intense, and it makes you not like it, and so then when you come back to it later, you're like, oh, I need to, work on being stronger so my muscles and my bones continue to function the way that I want them to as I age.
Yeah.
You have to be like, you have to overcome all of this extra mental like hurdles of your brain being like, this was a thing that like I was punished with as I grew up, and now I have to be like, this is a thing I get to do, I get to run, and it takes a lot of time to like make your brain be cool with doing these things that you had once framed as like, this is really hard and terrible and I hate doing it.
Catching those inner critic moments in your head, such a tough thing to do, and not many people are willing to kind of address those issues, because when it comes to those things like how do I have a how do I get stronger, a better relationship with fitness, whatever the case is, they'll find like, oh, I'm just gonna go. They'll feel like they could fix it superficially, and I always like to say that because they'll fix it by finding like some extreme exercise program or some diet nutrition thing where it's just like, oh, maybe this will help me find that love for thing, but they forget maybe you should, you know, in my opinion, go to therapy. Maybe you should talk things out in your head or with someone else. And it's funny because like it's like that aspect, the psychological aspect of fitness, and all that stuff is the area that people go to the least, or they don't even realize. But when they do address that, it's just like, wow, it's like someone finally turned on the sun.
Yeah, I think I've that's like such an important piece of the puzzle that like very often gets overlooked, especially like this day and age
Oh yeah.
when we're all coming from our like own personal experiences with fitness and diet culture and all of the things.
Yeah.
So it's a process, like, and it's not going to be a thing that you can just like turn off, because it's like a thing that's still sometimes in my brain. I have to be like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope, don't do that. Like when I you have like bad days or days where you're not taking care of yourself, and you're like, well, now I have to go take care, like I have to go work out, so I can't, like, so I can go do whatever I want. It's like, no, I get to work out
Yeah.
because I because I have the time and the strength to do so, and the space and the like how cool is that? Whereas, there's years and years of my brain going like, you have to do this in order to
Yeah.
earn your dinner, or whatever terrible thing that my brain tried to, whatever neurons connected, that brain is like, let me hold on
Exactly.
to that one. Like, no, wait.
Amazing what just changing one or two words in your language does for your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's a huge, the way you speak to yourself and like the language you use about like things make changes how um you respond to it. I know somebody in one of my comments when I posted about my mindset guide that I made said, whether you think you can or can't, it's true. So
Yeah.
like, whether or not if you think you can, yeah. If you think you can't, also yeah.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you have to put yourself in the mindset of, yeah, I can do
Exactly.
it, or I get to do this, and that makes everything so much better. Like,
Say you can, you can. You're still living your truth, whatever that is. So might as well be a positive one.
might as well.
Yeah.
Might as well. Are you training for anything at the moment? Like, are you doing
No,
any?
I'm just trying to survive school, to be quite honest.
I feel
Yeah. It's
it.
funny because like I like this year I turned 40 back in March, and I think this is just like with my life, how I try to juggle things. I told myself that I was going to do a powerlifting competition and a strongman competition in the same weekend. I like actually paid for a coach to take me through that last year leading up to my birthday in March. But with everything going on in my life with my semester and school, all the stress I have, I was training really hard, but then it started getting less and less to the point where because I was going through a lot in school,
Yeah.
handling all that stuff. Like I was at the strongman competition, even though I didn't train much. I did, and I'm usually like, if I go to a competition, whether I train or not, I'll be like, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna do it anyway. I've completed competitions. When I went into the strongman competition on my 40th, I was just like, after one event, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm done. And I just left after the first event. I mean, like that's how
Burnt out.
how much stress I had from trying to juggle with school, and like I need to go train hard, and while I'm doing some very difficult things already with going to school and maintaining all the other things. So I learned my lesson from that time because I was extremely depressed for about a good few months in spring of 2024. So after coming out of this summer at camp where I was just doing a lot of Zercher squats, training a lot of hard strength stuff, I'm at my last semester, and you know what? I was like, I'm not gonna train for anything right now. I'm just gonna not wing it, but just like change things up,
Just
fit my
be
schedule.
consistent and not worry about the outcome.
Exactly. And a big part of that was letting go of the idea that I needed to keep on doing like unconventional training.
Hmm.
And this semester, honestly, I've been doing a lot of bodybuilding stuff
Hmm.
because there's a gym near my school, which I go to on my periods off,
Hmm.
and they got machines. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna do this. And when I'm at home, I walk. And like it's amazing like how much my training has changed from summer to now. One where I'm in the summer, I was like, I'm gonna be badass. And by badass, I mean doing a workout called 3 bars of death, where I would do 10 down to one of Zercher squats, deadlifts, and bench press, like with heavy weights. Like I was like, how it is when you're
Yeah.
going off in like hard training, to now where I'm just like not lifting heavy, but focusing on range of motion and moving slow. Um, and the reason why I bring that up is just because like right now it's like I've learned to embrace the idea that my training comes in seasons. I don't need to hold on to the belief that, I apologize if this is offensive. Um, I, I, I I've learned to I've learned to realize that I don't have to hold on to belief that my life has to revolve around one certain type of training. I don't need to make
Yeah.
kettlebell training the end all be in my life, much as like I don't need to make
You don't have
strength.
to make it like your identity.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
and that's like the thing I've been struggling with too because I'm coming from sport. Like it's hard to be like I can't change. Like my goals are allowed to change.
yeah, exactly.
You're allowed to evolve as a lifter. You're allowed to evolve as a coach. And you're totally it's totally a thing. And like you said, seasons. Like your life, like your training, your life, your goals, they're all going to come in like seasons and cycles. It's all comes around. So you don't have to do just the one thing like all the time. And I think a lot of times when you're on the internet and like in these trying to find like your niche, you feel like, oh, I'm locked in to this
Yeah.
now.
Oh God.
And you get like and I felt that like for a lot because I was for so long just like a kettlebell sport person, and I love kettlebell sport, and I love like coaching sport, and I love teaching it, and I love doing the competitions, but also that's not all I do anymore.
Yeah.
Like I do a lot of other things, and my main thing is not sport anymore. And
Yeah.
it's like I'm like oh man, how do I like shift all of these people who came to me looking for sport, and now that's not really my main.
And I think that's the cool thing about being a coach, right? It's like you have your fingers in so many different pies.
Hmm.
And like, yeah, sure, I coach kettlebell sport and all this other fun stuff, and I'm great at it. But
Hmm.
also, I love doing all this other stuff as well. I mean,
Yeah.
it might not be my main, but I am well-rounded enough to have a knowledge about so many different things. And I think the big issue with so many coaches is the fact that they're known as that person.
Yeah,
And
they have like a very specific niche that they have to stay in.
exactly. And I could tell you one thing, and I've had conversations about the other coaches, with some other coaches about this. The one thing I've been seeing in the past couple years, and I think this is since the pandemic started, it's just seeing it's fitness is starting to feel a lot like high school all over again with clicks.
Mm,
And it's just like everyone's trying to be in these certain cliques to be like trendy and all this type of stuff. And they'll kind of like balk at other different types of training. Like how many,
yes.
I can't think of any kettlebell person who I could look at them and say who will look at a chest fly machine and say, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do that. I think that's an excellent exercise. Let me just use it with, I don't know. It just, I just don't really like how people will just kind of stick into these niches and then just like disregard everything else.
Yeah, yeah, they get very dogmatic. They get very like, this is the way that I'm doing it now, so this is the right way to do it all of the time. And you're like, there's
Oh
more
yeah,
than one way to do a thing. Like, there's
exactly.
more than one way to be strong. There's
Yeah,
more than one way to like build your chest or your bicep. Like, there's not one exercise that you have to do in order to build these things. And you don't have to do them. Like,
yeah.
that's
That's
the other thing is no one's making you like do the thing. You can
yeah,
also just like be like, oh yeah, that's great. It's not something that I do.
yeah. Right. Take what you like, find what you believe is useful and fun, and then throw out the rest.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
got
like,
it.
oh yeah, I'm not probably doing chest flies, but also I work out here and I don't have a, like, so like
Yeah, yeah,
it's not going to
exactly.
be the same. Um, and that's fine. But also I can still work my chest and do things that are going to benefit. But
Yeah,
people get like very dogmatic about this is the way that is you have to do the thing. It's like
yeah,
there's
absolutely.
you can do all the things and like
Exactly.
and not all at once probably because there's too many things to do, but like you're allowed to like change in what you do because like I thought at one point like I was talking about kettlebell sport, I was like that's what I'm gonna do, that's all I'm doing for like
Mm.
my like I was like locked in
Yeah,
and I was like this is what I'm gonna do this until I fucking can't do anything anymore. And then I found like another lift that I really loved, and I was like, ah, oh, let me do that.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, then you feel kind of guilty. And you're like, no, you don't have to. This is my life. I can do whatever I want.
of course.
I can do whatever I want. I can do the lifts that I enjoy. And you're allowed to evolve, and your goals are allowed to evolve over
Yeah,
time. And you're also allowed to just like, your goals can also just be like, I just want to move.
yeah,
Like there are seasons where that's the goal, and that's also totally valid because sometimes you don't have the energy to put in like bent pressing or doing sport. Like those are like pretty strenuous training programs. I mean, you've
yeah.
done a sport program. Like they take
I've
a
done your
lot.
sport
You did
program.
my sport program, that's what I know.
Oh,
Like they're not like easy, they're not easy workouts.
no,
They take a lot out of you, and if you're also doing that on top of you know, school for you or like raising a family for a lot of people and work and stuff, like
yeah,
it becomes a lot. And you're allowed to be like, let me step back, I want to do sport workouts, but also I don't have any competitions coming up, I just want to have fun.
yeah.
uh and that's fine too. And then you take that skill, and whenever you decide, oh, I have a thing I want to train for, you still have the ability to shift
Exactly.
into that
Yeah.
goal.
and
Yeah.
and like we said, like that key is just embracing where you're at now in your life and
Mm-hmm.
finding that training modality or program that's going to help you uh still keep that peace in your life, so to speak.
Yeah.
uh, and I think that's one thing a lot of people tend to beat themselves up over because they're like, I need to stay. It's like I
Gotta stay
still,
consistent.
yeah, with my extreme with this current training program when that clearly is like cutting into the other areas of my life.
Yeah.
Um,
You're allowed to like live your life. Like,
yeah,
and I think the most important thing with training for me and for people I work with is reminding them that like training is to benefit your life. Like we've been saying, training is to make your life better. It shouldn't take it over. Like
exactly.
there are times and there are athletes where it's going to take over, like, and that's fine if that's your thing. If you're an athlete, if you're like training for, I don't know, a big race, the Olympics. I'm not training in the Olympians, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
that, where fitness will take over, and that's fine for seasons. But they're not doing that all the time.
No, absolutely not.
Like you have to be able to find that balance of okay, there's going to be a time where this is going to be the top priority, but most of the time, the top priority is not me doing my training. It's like I
Yeah,
would like to spend like in a few weeks. My sister's coming. Like I'm not going to really train that week. I'm going to go hang out with my sister, and and that's more important. And if I miss trainings, and I will, I'm not going to like lose my mind over it.
yeah, exactly. Just going with the ebb and flow of life, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you are doing like days of push-ups and you did days of rucking. How did you start that?
Oh yeah, so that was actually born out of me. Once again, it was born out of school because when I started the rucking, it was coming out of a very stressful semester. I mean, I got good grades in, but my training took a hit. I was like super depressed. I'm like, I don't feel like going hard in training. It's like I need to find something that's a low barrier of entry for me to just move my body. So for me, rucking was that thing. So I started rucking and I was just like, you know what? What if I just did rucking every day for a year? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so then that's how that was born. So
Yeah,
I told myself whether it was rucking for 1 minute or 1 hour, whatever the case is, I'm just going to put a bag on my back
do
and
a little
take
walk.
a spin. Yeah, exactly. So I did that every day, and it started off really great up until about the new school year. And then that's when I was just going through some more stuff. Well, this is more towards my 40th. And then that's when I was just struggling to keep moving with that one, but I still put the ruck on my bag. I mean,
Mhm.
on my back, and even if that was just for like 30 seconds to 1 minute, I still did it, which I was told myself
That
being
counts.
it counts
Yeah.
exactly. Myself that grace to know that this is not meant to be something that's very strict. Because in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do like for at least 30 minutes every day. I'm gonna add 5 pounds every month and see if I could get high in my ruck. And it got to the point where I was on Thanksgiving, I had, I think, 70 pounds in my rucksack, 75, and I
Oof.
rucked for 8 miles um before Thanksgiving dinner. And that was rough because then I got like all sorts of cramped up towards the end. But I digress. So when I finished that year-long challenge, I was like, I really liked it, but I didn't enjoy how much of a struggle it was for me to one, bring a rucksack with me everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Put some weight in it and find some space to move around. Like I want to find something that is more sustainable and something that I could still find joy in after 200 days. So
Mhm.
that's where doing the push up every day quest comes in. And I don't call them challenges, I just call them quests
Yeah.
like games because I'm like it sounds cooler. Uh
I named one of my programs Kettlebell Quest actually, so I get
Fantastic. We're on the
it.
same page. I
Yeah,
love it.
I love. I it's all adventure. It's because it is. It's supposed to be. It's like a side quest.
Exactly. Fun side quest, and you get to see where the road takes you. I love it. And and that's exactly what I'm doing as well. So it's been what 139 days, and I told myself the goal is not to do like I wanted to make it so that way one I could find a better relationship with push-ups because I absolutely hate push-ups. I think they're
Same.
stupid. Yeah. Um, and at the same time, I was like, I want to get better at my push-up. So like my rule was just to do 10 a day. And I have a lot of people that tell me, "Oh, you should add one more push up every day. Make it so that way by the end you're doing 100 a day." And
Oh,
and I was just like, "You're missing the point of this."
yeah.
And one, the idea is not to find the challenge in reps. I mean, in the challenge in volume. The idea is to find the fun
The
and challenge.
routine.
Yeah, in the routine and on for me, one of my objectives were to find the challenge in 10 reps.
Mhm.
So I'm like, once I know I like there'll be days where like I can't do much. I'm so tired. So I'll do like, elevated push-ups with my hands up.
Yeah.
But there are some days where I'm just like, you know what? Kind of want to explore what I could do with 10 push-ups. So then that's when I'll find different variations. I'm like, ooh, like doing 10 push-ups is easy now. What if I slowed it down for 10? How would that
Mhm.
feel? And if that feels easy, what if I did ring push-ups and so on and so forth? Like I found a lot of variations in push-ups that I never
Yeah.
could do before, and here I am. So that was pretty cool because it's like we always tell ourselves like when it comes to calisthenics, it's like if you could do like a lot of reps of one thing, then that's how you know you're getting better. It's like, if, like, for example, if you could do 100 burpees in 5 minutes, that whole thing,
Yeah.
like, be better, whatever the case is. But not a lot of people are like, you know what? What if what if their technique sucks? Like,
Yeah.
if I could do 100 push-ups, but they're just halfsies, half push-ups,
Yeah.
it doesn't really count as 100. And then two, it's like, what about trying to progress to the next level of a push-up instead
Mhm.
of trying to go higher in reps? So there was that whole idea. And then the other cool thing I like about the challenge is, like, I like to, like, experiment with certain things. So every 30 days I try to test out my max push-ups. So just to see
Cool.
how it goes, using the same tempo that I use when I do my first test out set. And like, I started off with 16 after 30 days, and then I think now I could do 25 in a row. So it's like, ooh, a fun
Yeah.
experiment to see what happens if I only do 10 a day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the whole spiel about my push-up quest. And it's been super fun so far. Like, I don't hate it. And it's like something I could just, like, if I want to bang it out real quick, I could bang it out real quick. If I really want to get after it, then I could, like, choose a difficult variation. Like right now I'm working on planche push-ups,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's been something I'm like, ooh, this is something new. So now let's fuck around with this for a while. So I like this challenge more than the rucking challenge because it doesn't take long, and it's something where I could find a lot of variation and it still
Mhm.
brings me joy. Like the rucking thing, after like 200 days, I was just like, I'm
This sucks.
absolutely sucks. But
Yeah.
yeah, but now
I
I have a
think
great appreciation walking, so it works.
I think that's such a good way to like just like lower the barrier of entry for
Yeah,
training. Like it doesn't have to be a whole workout to
yeah,
do a thing.
exactly.
And you're still like making strength progress. Like you're
Yeah.
adding push-ups when you're doing your tests, even
Mhm.
though all quote unquote all you're doing is
Yeah.
10 push-ups a day. And I think that's another important thing to like when you're bringing people in. It's like you don't have to do everything all at once. You can just do a thing. Like it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. You're doing 10 push-ups a day and you're building a consistent routine that you're doing every day, which is so important. And you're getting stronger with it. Like with 10 push-ups, like the what is that phrase? The like minimum, it's
Minimum
like
effective dose.
yes, so you're finding that a minimum effective dose that like works for you and for the push-up, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I watched your rucking thing, and I was like, oh, now we're doing push-ups. How fun!
I already
Like,
know what the next one's going to be after
oh,
this
fun
year. Then it's going to be burpees for fun. And then my goal on
for
that.
fun.
Yeah, because you know what? There's this, like, you ever heard of, I don't know if you've heard of this guy. His name is Johnny Payne. He has this training program, which I absolutely love, and I've used it for the majority of my life. It's called the Grayskull Linear Progression. And he has these things called villain challenges. So, like, they're little things that you could do to test your mettle and see how you stack up. And he said he had one challenge, in which I just brought up. It's like, if you could do, he's like, I've never met someone who could do 100 burpees in under 5 minutes that does not like where they're at physically, like fitness wise and aesthetic wise. And that always kind of like sparks something in me. He's like, man, I would always want to do, I'm very interested to see what it's like to do 100 burpees under 5 minutes. I've done burpee challenges in the past, like 100-day ones, where
Mhm.
I did one burpee challenge a long time ago, where it was one burpee the first day, two the
Me
second,
too. I think
up
we've
to
all done that one. That was like the first like when you look up workout plans when you're like
yeah,
back in
100-day
like
challenges.
yeah back in like 2015 or
Yeah,
whatever, and that was like it was always like the first one off Pinterest.
exactly. When you're in
uh,
there, like for me, when I'm in my 20s, I'm like, I want to find as many painful things as possible to
mhm.
progress. There was actually one challenge I did on New Year's Eve, 2004, 2013, which was to do 2014 squat thrusts. So
Oof.
that took about 4 hours and 15 minutes, and that was so I was a glutton for punishment back in my 20s. But like
I think
I
that's a phase we have to go through.
yeah, exactly. You kind of push the limits to see what you're capable of, and then when you enter the next decade of your life, you're like, you could say to yourself, you know what, I know what it's like to push myself. I don't need to do that anymore. And
Yeah,
that's
or like I know how to push myself in a way that's not going to break me. Cause you can push yourself really hard and not be wiped. Like the things I do now are not the things I did in my 20s. Because the things I did in my 20s were also kind of stupid.
exactly.
um, I
What do
did,
they say? You fuck around and find out when you're at that age.
yeah, one I did a half marathon
Oh God.
on one Saturday, and then the next Saturday it was the Cali Open, and I did my long cycle and snatch like competition sets like within a week after
Nice.
a half marathon.
Wow.
like I like so dumb. What like
Yeah, my,
and I set it up specifically like, oh, I set it up so I have a week, and I was like, that's plenty of time. And then I hobbled for a mile back to my car after my half marathon. I was like, oh no.
nice.
um but like that's not a thing I would do now. Like,
Yeah.
and I survived and I didn't hurt myself, but uh now I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do that amount of running, which I have not done since that race, because I crossed the finish line and I was like, I'm never running that far again in my entire life.
PCS
uh,
is a hell of a thing.
yeah, I was like, that's good for me.
Yeah.
I'm good.
No
uh
more miles need to be run in life ever.
No, we stick under 4 at this
Good.
point, and that's fine for me. 5 some days, but like, anyways, now if I were to be like, okay, I'm gonna run a race, and also I have a kettlebell competition or some sort of weight, there would be space between so my body could actually
Oh yeah.
recover. Like what kind of deload was me running 13.1 miles at max effort?
Yeah, Jesus Christ, man. That's fucking wild. I can only imagine how long it took
Uh,
you to get back to normal afterwards.
it was a rough few weeks. The
Yeah.
worst part of that race was the race went fine. It was in San Diego. It was beautiful. But the finish line was like a mile away from the start point where everyone parked.
Yikes.
So I had to like walk back after like running full effort, like collapsing on the ground, like whatever. And then me and my now husband had to like stumble. He had to like half carry me a mile back to the
Oh.
car. And then I sat in the car, and we were gonna go get food. And I had to cross the street from our parking spot. And I was just like walking like I'd never walked before.
Walk like you've never walked before.
I was just like a little old lady. Like, I
Nice.
needed a walker. It was so ridiculous. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm good on running that far.
Jesus Christ.
Check that one off the list. Don't need to do that again. And running's coming back again, like in
Oh,
a
good.
really big way. Like I feel like everyone's running again. I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, I did that phase. I'm good. I don't need
You
to do
ever
that
see
one
those,
again.
I've been seeing a lot of videos of like those running clubs where people go to socialize and meet like dates. I
See,
think
that's fun.
that's like a big thing nowadays, apparently. Like they'll go and like guys will go and to running clubs to pick up girls. Like, oh, that's a good way to do that. Good for you.
Cool. Yeah, I never did running clubs. I always run alone. I don't want to have to keep pace with anyone.
Exactly. There's too much
Um,
pressure to keep pace, I feel.
yeah, I run with the dog, and she's enough to keep
Oh,
pace
good.
with. But also she takes a lot of breaks.
Good.
So, and then when I'm tired, I'd be like, "Oh, Delilah, do you want to sniff this leaf? Because I gotta catch my breath." It's not my fault. She needed to sniff.
Good.
It's
Yeah. Delilah needed to catch her breath.
not me. She
I know.
the powerful running dog. Yeah, no, she
You're a
needed the
well-oiled
break.
machine.
Yeah, she's a good little running buddy, and also she's keeps me consistent because I probably wouldn't be running as often if I didn't have her.
Okay.
But she's a cattle dog, and she's a nightmare if she doesn't get a couple runs every week.
Oh, wow.
She needs to work out. She needs the energy when she's looking at me.
More than
Um,
motivation to go out for runs because of the dog.
yeah, I mean, she's got to get that work. She's got to get that cardio in.
Just make sure you tell your dog, you get to run with me today. This is not a punishment to your dog.
She wants to run always in a way. I have to be like, no, no, we can't go that fast yet.
Yeah.
She's, but I think Yeah, I like running now. I like there was like I said like there was a time when running when I was in sports growing up like where running was a punishment. Um and then when I first started training again, walking and then running was how I got back into training. And I really loved it, but then it turned into like a way to punish myself for eating. um, and then when I started doing sport, it helped running. It was really beneficial for sport because it's using the
Yeah.
cardio and whatever. And I got to like rephrase it as a way to be like, oh, this is a thing that's fun. And once I
Mhm.
got a dog, it was like, oh, I get to tire my dog out. It takes less time than a walk. So you can have different reasons for doing a thing that's good for you.
Exactly. And I think you touched on a great point at like there's certain times in your life where something might feel like the absolute death of you and you don't want to do anymore. But once again, like we talked about earlier, it's like those seasons of your life just pass by and it might come back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to embrace that. And that's why fitness is so great. It's just because there's so many facets. And when we kind of break away from like, I need to do only one thing, it's like, let me just explore what's my body really craving right now. And you
Mm-hmm.
kind of like see all that, see what's out there. And it just makes fitness so much more fun because I mean, everything feeds into the next one. And at the same time, you get to you never know what you're going to enjoy or
Yeah.
enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's also like really important when people are getting into fitness. Because I think especially like in our corner of the internet, there's a lot of exploration of movement. Like we're doing very unconventional training, kettlebell sports, not conventional, steel mace, Indian gloves. Like these aren't like conventional things. And people see strength training and they go, oh, it's this one thing. You go, you squat, you press, you deadlift, you bench press. But
Yeah.
there is so much more to do, and there's so many cool ways to move your body. And if
Yeah.
you get the chance to explore all of these different ways to move your body, you're going to get to find a thing that you love.
Absolutely.
Um, like there's so many ways to lift and
Mhm.
get strong. There's something out there for everyone. It's
Yeah.
just like getting to take that time, which does take time sometimes to find it. Um, but once you get to take that effort and time to find the thing that you love to do,
Mhm.
it's awesome. You have something that
Yeah.
like you're excited to do, and then eventually that might lead to something else because, like I said, I started with kettlebell sport. Through kettlebell sport and training in a gym that does kettlebells and stuff, I found the bent press, and now that's the thing that I love to do. And like through like you can keep pushing forward through that, but once you find a thing, it really helps to like open up all these doors of like all these different ways to strength train.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that's a big reason why CrossFit has made such an impact for a lot of people. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not because specifically because of CrossFit. It's because of the fact that it's exposed people to so many different modalities of fitness from kettlebells to Olympic weightlifting to powerlifting, where it's just like, yeah,
Calisthenics.
yeah. It's like, yeah, calisthenics. It's like even though they might fall out of love with CrossFit, they find something they truly love. And like how
Through
many
it.
see, yeah, exactly. It's like how many people you've seen go from start off in cross and end up going into straight up Olympic weightlifting.
Mm-hmm.
Wild. You know what I mean?
Or even CrossFit into kettlebell sport, like or
Yeah.
like hard styles, but like there's it's a great entry point. I know there's a lot of CrossFit hate in the kettlebell world, but
Oh, yeah.
I think it's and the technique that they use for things isn't always the most effective or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's turned into a really great entry point for a lot of people to find kettlebells. So I do sometimes still have to explain to people when I'm doing sport that it's not CrossFit, which is a little bit annoying.
Yeah. Same spiel you got to give every time, but
It's
that's
not, it's a different thing. It's really old. It's Russian.
yeah. Like Russian. You've ever heard of Russians?
You Russian? This is a Russian
Yeah.
thing.
It's actually funny because I got my start in CrossFit at a CrossFit facility that wasn't like they were affiliated with CrossFit. They were the first CrossFit gym in New Jersey. This is back in once again 2007,
Mm-hmm.
but they were actually a kettlebell gym.
Oh,
So I did like a kettlebell version of this workout called Fight Gone Bad. Like they were just CrossFit in name only, but everything else like that's how I learned hard style, um, and all that stuff. So it's funny because kettlebells, like it, even though it was an interesting CrossFit, but going to that kettlebell gym is what led me through everything else in fitness world. So it's been pretty
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, I found kettlebell through just like literally Googling it. I went, how do I find what do I add to my home gym? And kettlebells came up. But my very first like coaching job, like the first time I ever got to teach a real class was at a CrossFit gym. Like like it and like it wasn't like I don't know if it was like fully affiliated, but like that was the very first time I got to teach a class. And it was at like a gym. I just got to sub this guy's classes when he was gone. He's like, you can make whatever you want. And I was like, this is so cool. And it really like got me excited to like continue to coach. It was the first time and people were excited to do workouts and they came in, it was very community based.
Yeah.
And I think that's also like a really big part of why it's such a successful field of strength training is there's a big community and it's hard to do it alone.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
having a way that you're built in with a community of people is so helpful.
Exactly.
Because that's also where I think sport is really starting to like find its feet too, is because there's a really good community of people in it.
Yeah.
And everyone in sport for kettlebell sport is really excited whenever anybody comes in because it's hard and it's a really small sport. So we're like, oh my God, you're here too. Cool, come on,
It's
let's go.
wild just how much the kettlebell, all these kettlebell, like before, like, you know, how like what, 5, 6 years ago, like kettlebell sport wasn't known nearly as much as hard style, and hard style was the thing to do. But now it's just like all the kettlebell styles are mixing, like juggling, sport, whatever that thing is, where people are treating kettlebells like Olympic weightlifting now. Oh, I don't know what
What's
that is.
that?
Like you see, like you see on like some a lot of kettlebell folks who are like taking like kettlebells and treating it like Olympic weightlifting. Like they'll do split snatches and then
Mm.
split jerks and stuff like that.
I've been throwing in split jerks too because I saw someone do
Yeah,
it, which is
exactly.
fun.
Yeah. So it's just like wild. It's like now we're seeing all these different styles intermingling with each other.
Mhm.
So it's pretty interesting to see like just how far kettlebell training has come in the past, like what,
Yeah.
not even like just like 3 years.
Yeah. Well, since COVID, really,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think COVID really opened it up in a way because everyone had to train at home, and
Yeah.
so everyone kind of found the way that they love to train with the
Hmm.
bells, which is great. Like,
Exactly.
and that's why I think like having dogma and like being like this is the only way to do it is so
Yeah.
stupid because there's so many ways to do a thing. You
Oh
can
yeah,
just
absolutely.
and also part of the joy of kettlebells is how versatile they are.
Oh
Like that's part of the sell is yeah, I guess you could just do swings and Turkish get ups, but also why?
yeah,
Why would you just do swings and Turkish get ups when you can
exactly.
do a flip with a kettlebell?
Yeah,
Like that's way more fun.
exactly. Flip, bring it all around. It's fantastic. I mean, that's why, like, as much as I'm like not as deep in the kettlebell world as I used to be, like I still think it's pretty awesome just for the versatility of all that. And I love how now it's like kettlebell world is adopting certain things, like kind of like you see, like like for example in CrossFit you'll see certain trends in the games,
Mhm.
like the introduction of kettlebells in the CrossFit games, for example, or it's like one year they had the introduction of dumbbells in the CrossFit games. Now all of a sudden everyone is using dumbbells. So yeah, it's wild. And then now in the kettlebell world, you kind of start to see that trends. Like all of a sudden, like maces have become like a part of that with kettles. And now what's the big thing? Was it sandbags? Like
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
the next.
Sandbags are the really big thing. I actually just got a sandbag given to me by someone. I have to go buy the thing, but
Oh,
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I just got one. I've always had the little duffel bag
Yeah, yeah,
ones. But that's the big the round ones that everyone likes, which are cool. And
exactly.
I've been wanting to get one, but yeah, someone just sent me a bag. They're like, I wasn't using it.
Nice.
I was like, oh cool. Now I just have to go buy the sand and I
Or
like
just
it.
find a beach and then just go ahead put sand in.
I guess I do live on the coast now. I did not think about that. The last time I got a sandbag, I lived in a landlocked state. Now I live next to the ocean.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I when I got my sandbags, like at the camp I was working at, they had a beach volleyball court and they
And
had
you were
extra,
like,
and so I just put it all in. I was like, let me $5, $10 for sand. Get the hell out of here. Let me just go ahead and get some free sand.
sometimes sand's expensive.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
what?
Ridiculous. And they're like, oh, you need this certain sand to put in the sandbag. I now know doesn't matter as long as it's sand and you're
As
good.
long as it's dry is I
Yeah,
think
as
the
long as
big
it's dry.
thing. Which
My,
that might be the trick up in Washington finding dry sand. That might not be functional in the area that I live.
that's part of the adventure there, Tiffany. My
That's gotcha.
yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
We're talking about trends. What do you think the next big trend is going to be in kettlebell world?
Um, you know, I feel like clubs might make a comeback.
Indian clubs or
No, like either. Because like the clubs were kind of a more of a thing when I started
Mhm.
sport or like kettlebell, and they haven't been as big as of late. And I know
Oh
like clubs and kettlebells were like a big thing for a while.
yeah,
Um, but that feels like a good way to go. I'm trying to look at if I have anything fun back here, but I don't really.
Mhm.
I just have my kettlebells and my barbell. But yeah, I mean, I like the sandbag though. I hope that sticks around for a little bit, at least as long as I, get to fill my bag up because the
Yeah.
trends
I'm
the
sure
trends keep coming faster, and I don't have a way to keep up.
the moment you don't see it, what's that thing called that you went to Belfast?
Mhm.
If you don't see it at Belfast, then you know it's no longer trending.
Yeah. They're all making the trends. I mean, I think there's probably there's got to be some weird lifting things. Do you have any insight? Are you making the next trend?
Hell no, I'm not. I am
I
making.
mean, maybe it could be back to like no equipment, like back to like the body weight flow situation.
Oh, like animal flow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that could
that
be
might be
fun.
that could. I think you're right, and like you can see like the steel clubs make a thing.
I
I
feel
know
like
with
everyone's poor right now.
yeah,
Like it's like we're going through this time where people not wanting to buy more equipment. So it
yeah,
might shift to more like animal flow because that was another thing that was big when I first started doing
that's
kettlebells
true.
too.
Yeah,
And everything comes back around. So I'll just hold
exactly.
on to all of my equipment and eventually it'll come back around.
It's going to be exciting to see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, clubs would be fun though. I don't have any steel clubs, so
Ah, that's all right.
I just got my Indian clubs. I got the ones that Bill and Steph made me, so those are really
Oh,
cool.
the sword.
Yeah, Sorensen's.
Yes, yes, that's the name of it.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
gorgeous. I like those ones a lot.
that's
Uh,
fantastic. You would have appreciated this at the school I was at. Like there are schools that have Indian clubs. They don't know what's Indian clubs. They just
mm,
call it the wooden bowling pins. And then we had they set it down to have the kids knock it down. I was like, you could do so much more with it than just knock down these glorious looking Indian clubs.
yeah, I had when I first moved to Colorado, I was doing Indian clubs outside, and my neighbor came over and was like, "Why are you swinging bowling pins around?" And I
Yeah.
was like, "No, these are like a club. It's like a whole thing." And I tried to. She's like, "Oh, I don't actually care. I just was curious why the crazy lady was outside swinging
Oh,
bowling pins." And I was like, "Okay, bye."
like see you later.
I'll pick up your dog when it escapes your fence again. Don't worry.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, we've been chatting for a while. Where can people find you on the internet?
Okay.
But
Comes the soft sell of where to find me.
yeah, this one you gotta
Of course.
plug your things.
I apologize. It's been a long time since I've done a podcast, so I forget.
I don't know. I'm not great at the transitions.
It's okay. That's this part was the best part. Yeah, could just find me on that's right. You can find me on Instagram at Team Wagon. That's all one word at
Mhm.
Team Wagon on Instagram. That's pretty much where I do all my business. I could tell the TikTok, it's honestly the same thing. It's just push-ups every day. I mean, you see the same thing on Instagram, but there's a little bit more. So yeah, that's pretty much where you could find me, or just find me out in the streets of New Jersey, wherever you feel more comfortable.
Yeah, find you in the streets.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, say
everyone,
hello.
everyone, go hunt down.
Exactly. Catch me anywhere
Uh,
on the New Jersey Turnpike.
yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. It was really good to get to catch up.
Yeah, same.
Uh,
Here, too.
Thanks so much to Charles for coming onto the podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope you all got as much out of it as I did. Make sure you're following him on all of the things. He's Team Wagon, and all of his links are in the show notes. So check that out. Check him out. He's posting great content literally every single day. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. That helps more people to find the podcast and shows me that people are in fact listening to the podcast, which helps me a whole lot. And I put out a free kettlebell sport guide, Kettlebell Sport 101, your guide to lifts, lingo, and competing, really breaking down how you can get into kettlebell sport and like breaking it down and making it really simple so you understand what the sport is and how you can compete and all of the things that confused me when I was getting into the sport. And once you get that, you'll be on the list so you can be the first people to get the link to sign up for my kettlebell sport workshop, which is also going to be free on November 2nd. So make sure you are getting that. And if you're looking for coaching, I have a really sweet intro special going on right now, and I'll have all of those details linked in the show notes as well. That's all I've got for right now, but I have lots more episodes coming with great guests. I'm very excited, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.